All right, welcome back to the channel. I was told before we got on the air that no tomfoolery, no chicanery, just get straight to the history of it, because apparently my wife, Susu, doesn't think that you have a sense of humor. So I just have to like that.
So in America, if you're not here, we call Wednesday hump day.
Yes.
But it doesn't, it's not really what it sounds like.
It should
It's
be.
just the middle of the week.
It's not hump day in here.
You can hump someone if you want, but it's not
But not
necessary. So we go hump day.
Hump day.
That's off of commercial.
And,
so anyway, it's Sabaton
Wednesday,
and
I'm not supposed to do that
call
either, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I'll say hump day, and if you feel like it, great. But if not, let's get on.
Is there like a hump-free zone?
Hump-free zone. Can you imagine walking down the street and you're like, oh damn, we can't do it here. It's a sign.
There's a sign. Oh, we should make some signs. Hump-free zone.
Okay, you
All
ready?
right, so we're gonna get started.
Yeah.
What are we doing today, honey?
The Winter War. We're gonna do the history part first.
Okay. And this one is 13, and it is the Winter War Sabaton History 006 official Talvisota, right? Talvisota?
Talvisota? I don't know.
Talvisota? I don't know. But here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joakim from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
The Soviet Red Army invaded Finland in late 1939, and the Winter War had begun. The Soviets thought the war would be over in a matter of weeks, if not days, but they were wrong, as the Finnish defenders surprised the world with their tenacity.
And our song Talvisota is a tribute to Finnish sisu.
International observers had a hard time finding a war that seemed more one-sided. The military might of the Soviet Union versus little Finland with a population of some 3.65 million. Without modern equipment, without tanks or even allies, the Finnish seemed doomed from the start as Soviet troops crossed the border November 30th, 1939, starting what the Finns called Talvisota, Winter War.
How to kill all mosquitoes in the area in 90 seconds? This simple but brilliant trick you can do tonight to
Finland had a troubled history with Russia. Its declaration of independence from the Russian Empire in December 1917 led to a brutal civil war between the right-wing whites and Bolshevik Reds. This was also a cultural war in which the Finnish nationalistic elements fought against the supporters of Russian influence. This resentment lingered in the Finnish conscience well into the late 1930s, when war again loomed across the European continent. There were plenty of people who believed that the antagonistic ideologies of Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union would eventually lead to war between the two, and that Finland may play a role in that future war. In the event of such a war, Joseph Stalin was concerned since the Finnish border was not even 30 kilometers away from Leningrad, and the Finnish batteries in the Gulf of Finland could threaten Soviet shipping in the Baltic Sea. Now, during the Great War, some Finns had quite close contact with the Germans, and there was even a Finnish Jaeger battalion that saw action with the German army. Stalin saw this possible connection as a real threat, even as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact went into effect in the wake of German and Soviet invasions of Poland. They partitioned Poland, and no buffer state between the two powers any longer existed. So Stalin secured a military presence in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania just in case. Finland, who declared itself neutral, was next. Soviet Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov presented demands to the Finns that included moving the border further away from Leningrad, which would also involve the Finns giving up their entire defensive line against the Soviets, and the Finns having to relocate up to 10% of their population. leasing the Soviets Hanko Peninsula to use as a military base and giving them the Rybaki Peninsula, which Stalin wanted for the nickel mines up there. I talked about all of this week by week on my World War II channel, where you can get all of the details. But long story short, the Finns said no way, and the Red Army invaded Finland at points along the entire border. Winter had already begun, and it would become one of the coldest in recorded history. Baron Field Marshal Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim came out of retirement to take overall command of the Finnish army and knew that the key to the defense of Finland was the Karelian Isthmus, the narrow strip of land between the Gulf of Finland and Lake Ladoga. Since 1932, they had prepared strong lines of defense there between the lakes and marshes, the defenses I mentioned earlier, which the Russian troops now had to attack head on. The boggy ground was no good for Soviet tanks and artillery to cross, and the areas they could cross had been extensively mined by the Finns. The Finnish army was small, yet was strongly motivated by patriotic fervor. They could mobilize maybe a little over 300,000 men, and were equipped with only outdated artillery and machine guns, with the exception of the Finnish-made Suomi submachine gun that was a serious weapon. The Russians, for their part, did not even bother to send their best troops, using just what was available in the Leningrad region. Even so,
I'm just going to pause this for a second because, my memory is not the best, but I want to say keep something in your head, and we'll discuss it at the end of the video, about the American Civil War and this war, because I have a lot of thoughts on that. So we're going to rewind it just a minute and hit.
Against such a small nation, Stalin wanted only a quick war and ordered General Kirill Meretskov, the commander of the Leningrad military district, to conquer Finland in a few weeks. Meretskov planned to do it by Stalin's birthday, December 21st, and yes, I'm aware that that date is slightly disputed. Meretskov would make a two-pronged attack to break the Mannerheim defense line. One force heading straight over the Karelian Isthmus, and another force making a wide swing around Lake Ladoga to outflank the Finnish. In the far north, beyond Lake Ladoga, the Soviet forces marched into nightmarish conditions. They were neither equipped nor trained to fight in the Arctic climate. They were not even camouflaged for the snow, nor were their tanks. The terrain was some of the densest forests in the entire world, with snowdrifts between the trees deeper than a man standing. The area lacked adequate infrastructure, and the troops were confined to the roads, which they had to follow in long columns. They were perfect targets for Finnish ambushes. Small platoons of Finns on skis or snowshoes, wearing winter camouflage, constantly harassed the Soviet troops, raided their supply columns, and operated behind the lines. The Soviet command structure at this time had political commissars issuing orders, and not just military men, which made it very unwieldy, and the troops had been ordered not to withdraw no matter what. This led to the soldiers being isolated by the Finns into small pockets in a hostile territory. The Finns called the pockets mohtis, the word for stacked firewood, like how the Soviet soldiers were huddled together in defensive positions in freezing temperatures with barely any food through the long nights of northern Finland. Mohti techniques were snipers and mortar teams harassing the trapped soldiers and depriving them of sleep, while stragglers, firewood gatherers, and supply columns were picked off one by one. Slowly but steadily, those mohtis shrunk as the Russian soldiers starved or froze to death until they were weak enough for assault companies to finish them off. This had the added bonus of preserving ammunition, salvaging the Russian weapons, and winning without costly direct engagement. The Finnish defenses of the Mannerheim Line were strong, and that, together with the knowledge of the terrain and with having skilled NCOs trained in small group tactics, they could outmaneuver the Soviets, even heavily outnumbered. But they still lacked adequate weapons, especially weapons to deal with the Soviet tanks. One way was to sneak up to a tank and throw an explosive cocktail of gasoline, kerosene, and tar at it, hoping to ignite the machinery. They named it the Molotov cocktail after the Soviet foreign minister. He had said that the Soviet bombers would only drop food supplies, not bombs. When bombs were, in fact, dropped, they were called Molotov bread baskets. Molotov cocktails had, in fact, been used earlier in the Spanish Civil War, but it was here they got their name. Finnish humor did indeed spoil Russian hopes for a quick victory. Soviet high command grew frustrated with the lack of progress, but this came to a large degree from insufficient skills in organization and coordination between the Russian forces. Even though they had a big advantage in armor, artillery, and aircraft, they could not combine arms efficiently. The more mobile Finns could thus react to each threat separately and concentrate their small forces on where the Soviets attacked next. Throughout December 1939, the Finns consistently and devastatingly defeated the Red Army. But in the long run, they could not hope to beat the entire USSR's military. Help from other nations was often promised but rarely delivered, though volunteers from all around the world arrived and in many cases fought. With Semyon Timoshenko and Georgy Zhukov now in charge as 1940 began, the Red Army underwent a period of retraining for winter war and using combined operations. By mid-February, the Mannerheim Line was broken, and in the early hours of March 13, 1940, Finland and the USSR signed the treaty that ended Talvisota. The Soviets gained all the concessions they had asked for and more, but at what cost? The Finns had lost some 25,000 killed and maybe another 50,000 wounded, over 2% of their population in just 105 days. But the Soviets had taken over 200,000 casualties according to their own estimate, but they may have had as many as 250,000 men killed, not even counting the wounded. The Winter War was a serious blow to Soviet pride, and the outside world now believed the USSR to be just a paper tiger. This would heavily influence Hitler's decision to soon wage war against the Soviets, and would also influence Finland's decision to fight on Germany's side in the continuation war. Britain and France had so cynically tried to prolong the Winter War for their own agenda, having an excuse to land troops in Norway to prevent iron supplies to Germany, and yet not providing real assistance at all, that Finland lost all trust in the Allies. They had truly fought, and for a time beat badly, one of the mightiest nations on earth, with an army that in many ways was just homemade. Now, you mentioned sisu at the beginning.
Yes.
What is sisu?
Well, I guess it's a mentality Finns have, resilience, hardiness, and it's quite impressive, actually.
Well, I mean, you cannot fault them for their bravery in the Winter War.
Absolutely not.
Nobody can do that. And that's interesting, because Finland, their national character, I mean, everything's a generalization, but that sisu mentality, and there's also the heavy metal thing, too.
Yeah, actually, one of the few places in the world where heavy metal is not a small subgenre,
It's not the extra thing that the weirdos
No.
listen to.
I mean, there are metal bands, Finnish metal bands, that will whip Madonna off the charts, if they release an album.
That's pretty cool. So all you metal bands out there in the world, go to Finland.
Yeah, get your asses over there.
But you guys, how often do you guys play in Finland?
Not enough.
Yeah, but it's so close to Sweden.
Yeah, and it took us a while to get there as well. I mean, I think we'd been going on for like 8 or 9 years as a band before we actually made it to Finland.
Wow.
Which is kind of weird because we'd been, all over Europe at that point. But
And
not to
the
Finland.
boat to Finland is so easy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the first time that we really hung out after the planning session was on the boat to Finland.
Yes,
Yeah.
on the boat to Finland.
Like John F. Kennedy comes back, here's a gun, look, take it of you, man.
On the boat to Finland, they serve a lot of cocktails.
Oh, yes, they do.
Now, you have a special cocktail.
Yes, a very, very special one. One served for Mr. Molotov, actually.
one of the actual original Molotov cocktails from the Winter War.
Yes.
That was not exploded or
It
something.
was made from these Jalovina bottles.
I think that's fantastic. Wow. With the whole
Yeah, we have a
blenders.
lot of stuff like that in our rehearsal space. I guess we'll bring it for the show sometime, some stuff.
Talvisota, The Winter War, is on the album The Art of War.
And that's all for today, my friends.
But we will see you next time on Sabaton History.
All right, everyone, that's it for today. But right now, I want to ask you a few things, okay? Please subscribe to Sabaton History, the regular Sabaton channel, of course, but also check out World War II and Time Ghost, all right? Right here, you got some videos, I guess, a cool playlist of more Sabaton history stuff. And also remember to check us out on Patreon, all right? We got a lot of support from you over these years, and this support is going to help keep this channel running, actually. So I hope to see you all on the road, and take care.
All right, so
He's so sweet for such a big, like,
scary
daunting
looking guy. Right?
Yeah, he's so
a little bit
sweet.
scary looking. So we're going to come back to this one in a minute.
What were you
But-
going to say about the Civil War?
Okay, so the first thing they talked about really reminded me of the Civil War, because when the South decided to break away, and I'm not a Civil War historian. I took history, most of it was European.
What, are you
lot
talking
during
about
war.
the U.S. Civil War?
Yeah, U.S. Civil War. Sorry, should have explained that. U.S. Civil War, when it first started, when the states started breaking away, the idea from the North was, we have all the industry, there's no way these people are going to beat us, right? So the first battle that I know about, not remember, I wasn't there, of course, was in Manassas, because I lived in Manassas, first battle of Manassas, Virginia. And apparently, and again, I'm not a Civil War historian, but what I've been told is that people came in from Washington, came in on carriages and brought picnic baskets to watch this war from the North, and to whip this little band of rebels, and it was going to be over very quickly, like they talked about when they went to war with Finland. The same thing. Russia was big, had more guns, had more people,
Yeah,
more
they're like,
soldiers.
it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
We
It's
got
not
it.
going to take any time at all. It was the same thing with the Civil War. And by the time that little skirmish was over, the people were running in droves back to D.C. and back north to get away, because they just got stomped on in the first war. The North did.
First battle.
First battle.
Yeah.
Because they didn't expect it to go that way, and they weren't really prepared.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to remember that, because the first thing we started talking about was like, that reminds me of the Civil War. And you never underestimate anybody that's smaller than you, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you just don't, because you don't know what you're about to get.
That's a good lesson in war and any type of defense tactics.
Yeah, playing in clubs. I'm serious. I've played in
Yeah.
clubs where you see this little guy, this big guy, and they go to a fight, and the little guy just whips his
Yeah.
butt. Happens. And so,
Very interesting about how Finland had set up to defend themselves against, and the Russian tanks got bogged down in their soil, and they'd been planning this for a while. What did they say? Did they say they had mines planted everywhere, landmines, or I thought they said mines.
Probably did. I'm sure they did. I mean, that's what you do. I love they mentioned the Molotov cocktails, because obviously Molotov, who was a Russian general, or was he Finnish? Whatever side of the war he was on, they called them Molotov cocktails, and they are still used, and they're used in a lot of civil unrests and stuff. You basically fill up a bottle with gasoline and put a wick in it, whether it's a rag or something else, and you toss it at people. Now, the fact that he said he actually he has one.
Yeah, but it's a relic. It wouldn't work now.
Does gasoline ever lose its explosive flavor?
I don't know. After 100 years, when you think it would have dried up? Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
I think they probably have a lot of really cool things. We
Yeah.
can probably find them on the video, on YouTube.
I don't want an unexploded mine in here.
No, I don't want that either, but I like to see one in someone else's house.
Me too. So we're going to go right
Yeah,
on into
let's
the,
go
to
into
the
the music.
video. We appreciate, again, your patience with us, and we've heard from Sabaton people that they don't mind the extra long videos. So here we go. This is the official lyric video from Sabaton, and it's called Talvisota. Is that what he called it? Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. You're not responding to
No,
me.
because I'm trying to say it right in my head before it comes out of my mouth. Talvisota? Talvisota? I don't know.
Talvisota. I think that's right.
Something
Anyway,
like that.
so here we go.
Russians on the road to ruin Kremlin for the certain to win, sent away an army to the west. Blizzard rain the ground were chosen, so asleep in hell were frozen. Stalin was eager to invade. He thought of the might he possessed, and not of his foe. Rage of winter rise, nation's pride, all was yours. Strike where it hurts. Fight, hold your ground. Winter war, reinforce the line. Split them into small divisions, whip them of the conquest visions, smart tactics used with great results. Snipers moved unseen in snowfall, forced them to retreat and recall, fight the Russian rule and their demand. With Molotov cocktail in hand, no fear of their tanks. Death or glory, rise, nation's pride, all what's yours. Strike it where it hurts. Fight, hold your ground. Winter war, reinforce the line. A slice of a knife to approach, and the blood turns to ice. Talvisota, rise, nation's pride, all was yours. Strike it where it hurts. Fight, hold your ground. Winter war, reinforce the line. Rise, nation's pride, all was yours. Strike it where it hurts. Fight, hold your ground. Winter war, reinforce the line.
All right, so
It's just like one initial idea or thought is, how exhausting must it be to sing in Sabaton? Not just sing, but to be in Sabaton, because it's just a frantic pace. I was thinking, dang, that drummer has got to be, and then song after song after song when they perform. I mean, like, what do you got to go to the gym every day to be able to do that, or what?
I mean,
I mean, seriously though, as a
No,
musician,
yeah.
with music like that, can it be more taxing physically?
I don't. I mean, I think I think it would be very taxing. I think it's a good word, but I think that they've been doing it so long, and when you started talking about that particular issue, what it reminded me of, I saw an interview about the Ramones, and I'm a big fan of the Ramones, and their songs were fast and furious and short, right, for that time for punk.
Yeah.
And they were interviewing this guy, and he's like, yeah, I went to see the Ramones, and they did like 40 songs in 20 minutes. Because it was like that. It was just fast and furious. And,
Right,
and
yeah.
the concert was over, and he was like, it's already over, because they did a whole bunch of songs at breakneck speed. And yes, I think it would be difficult. I've never played in any bands like that. I've never played in bands where most of the stuff I played was, rock and R&B and stuff, but not like that.
I liked, as far as the music goes, I was trying to listen to all of the different parts, and it's hard when it's that type of music, because I've just started listening to music differently in the last year. In that, I try to pick out each instrument and listen to know. That's the only way I listen differently than I used to, but it's hard with Sabaton. I probably need to break it down a little and, maybe see them. I doubt they'd do anything acoustic. Maybe they would.
They probably do. But another thing is that's a studio song. That's done in the studio. So
Right.
I don't know how much layering they're doing. I don't know if they're playing it raw or if they're layering things on top of
But
it.
when we saw them at Vakken, they were insane.
Yeah, they were insane. That is true.
It's the first time we ever saw them.
I think, as a budding musician yourself and wanting to, stop that. That makes me angry when you do that. She's trying to learn to play guitar, and doing very well. So just hush.
Okay.
Anyway, no, I'm just playing. She knows I'm just playing.
Yeah.
Anyway, watching a band live that does that kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Am I distracting you?
You were. I don't know what you were doing.
I'm sorry, I can't stop.
Okay. So what?
The doctors and appointments and stuff.
Oh, you gotta go. That's right. Okay. You gotta leave right now, right? Okay. She's gotta go. So we love you. We'll come back to
I'm
this.
sorry. I have a doctor's appointment and I didn't
that's what
realize
she
the time
was. I
was
didn't know
getting.
she was doing the phone. She was showing me the time. So goodbye.
We love the
we'll
song.
take this back up. We do love the song, and we'll discuss more later.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Like, subscribe, notify, share, comment down below. Be blessed.
And please don't hurt anybody.
That's right.
I
Don't
think
do
we-
it. Don't do that.
Bye.